Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, and joining me today is very special guest, Liam Heslin, stepping in on ultra short notice. I mean, the guy was on weight. He was ready. I hope the weight cut wasn't too brutal. I hope you had enough time to rehydrate. But today, we're going to come out here and give our boldest predictions for UFC year 2022, this time next year, what we think is going to go down. And we don't have the most conventional picks for this either. So I'm very excited. Everybody in the chat, y'all, let us know your bold predictions. Let us know if you agree with us, disagree. We're going to agree on some stuff. We're going to debate on some stuff. I'm excited. Liam, thank you so much for stepping in on short notice. You are the man. Welcome to Half the Battle.
Thank you very much, my man. And I'm a fan of the show first and foremost, and I'm glad to be here. I have been putting together a little bit of content myself over the last year and was thankful to put together a winning year. And now I'm looking forward to the UFC ahead. This is what I do. This is what I love. I spend a lot of time breaking down these fights. And so I'm really excited to break down, the look ahead with you right now. And I think that this is going to be a crazy year in the UFC. There's never a dull moment.
It absolutely is going to be a crazy year. I mean, I think that this is going to be the year where some of the most dominant champions go down. I mean, we see that all the time, right? But I'm just saying, I mean, we saw Amanda Nunes go down on the last one, but it's like you think these guys are invincible, and all of a sudden, Mother Nature takes its course, survival of the fittest, and it's always evolving. And then you got these prospects and these, people that people don't, people are like, man, I don't know about this guy, I don't know about that guy, but these are the stars of tomorrow. These are the guys that they're flying under the radar. I can't wait to talk about them. So there's so much to get down to. So firstly, before we start, I do have to shout out my sponsor, PrizePicks. But before I do that, I just want to wish everybody a very happy new year. I mean, dude, 2022, this is the first half the battle of this year. It's exciting to be here, man. How you feeling? I know you train jiu-jitsu, I train jiu-jitsu. We're both blue belts. I just got out of class. I'm feeling fucking amazing. No days off 2022. That's the hashtag. So far, I've been sticking to it, Liam.
I love it, Dan, and that's a great goal. Man, I'm following the Chael Sonnen school of yourself best when you feel like a champion. And I don't go every day, but when I go, man, I sell out and I try and spend every bit of myself every time I'm in the room. So I've been enjoying the process on that front. Had my first super fight last year in November to close out the year. Just posted that full match on my YouTube channel, but was able to make away with some cash there with a blue belt super fight. So hoping to get involved in a couple more of those in the new year here. Maybe we'll have some events coming down the horizon, but looking forward to competing and training a lot in the new year as well.
I mean, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, you're a professional grappler. The reason being you got paid to grapple. So it doesn't matter if you never do another competition again. The fact of the matter is you went out there. If you get paid, that means you're not an amateur. So my man over here isn't just a blue belt like me. He's a pro blue belt. So that's pretty fucking cool.
My man, I appreciate you. White belt mentality. That's what's going to keep me in the game, I hope. So I just treat it like every day I'm 0-0, got to earn it all again, my man.
Yeah, I mean, I have a similar philosophy. For me, it's like I need to earn that top position. So I can sit here and have a jiu-jitsu podcast with you another time, because I know the way that we're starting to talk right now, that'll be the only thing we talk about. And we got to get to these bold predictions. So before we do that, there's one thing I got to do is I got to plug my sponsor, PrizePicks. And guys, I truly believe that PrizePicks is the easiest and simplest way to make money on daily fantasy sports. I mean, with these other outlets, which are great, I mean, you can occasionally get lucky and hit big, but the bottom line is you're competing with thousands upon thousands of stats nerds. And hey, if you hit that jackpot that one time, that's all it takes. But what I love about PrizePicks is it's literally you versus their projection. And I love PrizePicks, but I hate to break it to you, some of their projections are kind of out there, because I mean, when there's so many sports on the table, like how can you get them all right? And the beautiful thing is, when they set a projection on an over under, like for example, remember Alex Pereira knocking out Michailidis? His over under on significant strikes was 60. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, there's no way in hell Andreas Michailidis can eat 60 strikes from Pereira. So we smashed that under. Whenever a grappler like Muniz, for example, who barely throws any strikes, and they set the over under on the strikes too high, you got to pound that. And also with all these other sports, even sports I don't watch, because the beautiful thing is they have the projection, and then they'll show you the player's history with that projection, so you know, oh, has he covered this? Does he consistently cover this? Is he hit or miss? And find those spots to take advantage of. Like the other day in college football, one of the projections was like minus 7.5 rushing yards. So you're telling me all my guy has to do is get 0 and I win? my guy can literally sit on the bench and win, or like my guy can go negative 6.5 yards and win. So it's like, you just have to don't be a degen, but just take advantage of those little spots that, I mean, you think that their projection's wrong. Use my code BATTLE for that 100% deposit match up to $100. And guys, UFC is coming back, and I know the football playoffs are coming up. So I mean, how y'all feeling about Patrick Mahomes? How y'all feeling about Aaron Rodgers? Over unders on there. Giga Chikadze, you think he's the real deal? You don't think he's the real deal? Over under there. You can combine sports. I mean, guys, try PrizePicks right now. Download the app or go to prizepicks.com and use my code BATTLE for an 100% deposit match up to $100. And I know my boy Liam can vouch because you've played PrizePicks once or twice yourself, huh?
Yes, sir. And I really enjoy PrizePicks myself. They sponsor my program, but I have a ton of fun playing PrizePicks. It's what keeps me involved when I'm playing in the NFL, things like this. You know, I'm a combat sports nerd, but when I venture outside of my comfort zone, I prefer to do it with PrizePicks and try and, you know, rely on the knowledge of my friends as well. I got a lot of experts that I know in other fields, right? They come to me for combat sports. I go to them to help me out for the PrizePicks looks and who they think is going to go off from a player perspective in other sports. So PrizePicks is the way to go if you want to play DFS.
My man. All right, guys, let's get right down to business. So our bold predictions, the point of this show is not just about, you know, we're not going to sit here and be like, oh, Roxanne Modafferi is going to knock out Amanda Nunes. Oh, I'm so bold. And that, what a hot, like, we're not trying to play that game. We're trying to actually say things that we truly internally believe is going to happen or has a high chance of happening that other people might be like, dude, are you fucking crazy? So yeah, I mean, we're not going to talk about Harry Hunsucker becoming, you know, a 2-time world champion or anything like that. So let's get down to business. Our bold predictions this time next year. Y'all tell us if you agree, if you disagree. Let us know some of y'all's. So we're going to go back and forth. I'm going to list my first. We're going to talk about it. And then Liam's going to list his first. We're going to talk about it. We're either going to agree, disagree, debate, whatever the case may be. Let's just have some fun, my man. So my first bold prediction this time next year, I believe. See, I was under the impression that Khamzat Chimaev and Bilal Muhammad are going to get into a fist fight. I'm also under the impression that if they do get into that fist fight, the winner is going to fight for a UFC welterweight title. Well, my bold prediction is the winner of that fight between Khamzat and Bilal will be the UFC welterweight champion this time next year. Now, let me explain why. Firstly, Usman is an unbelievable champion. You cannot discredit his work. However, he has stated multiple times, and for not just recently, but for over a year, he's thinking about that next step. He's thinking about retiring. He's cleared out the division. Like, what else is there for him to do? And when the champs start talking like that, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like the only champ that's ever retired as champ is GSP. And actually, Liam, he did it twice. He retired against Johnny Hendricks, and then he retired against Bisping. 2 different weight classes, twice as champ. I don't think anyone else has ever retired as champ. Someone in the chat, or Liam, if you know off the top of your head, correct me if I'm wrong. So I personally don't think Usman retires as champ. Well, you know what? Maybe there's a chance he vacates the belt. In that case, he would retire as champ. But okay, the reasons why. I think Khamzat Chimaev, yeah, despite the competition, maybe, I mean, look, Gerald and Lee are good fighters, but obviously he hasn't fought that top 10 guy quite yet. But I recognize talent. I mean, when John Jones hadn't fought a top 10 guy, I could recognize this guy was special too. I think Khamzat is the real deal. And so he's got the hype train, deservedly so. But Bilal Muhammad, he's a guy that I think flies under the radar to a point of almost disrespect. And the reason why is because, like, people talk about, oh, Bilal Muhammad's not a finisher. And to me, it's like, what does finishing fights have to do with winning belts? I mean, because to me, all that has to do with winning belts is winning fights. And one thing Bilal Muhammad does, I mean, he's unbeaten in 10 of his last 11, Liam, you know what I'm saying? So one thing that, I mean, we can't debate is Bilal Muhammad goes out there and wins fights. And I remember when people were criticizing Usman before his title reign about, oh my God, the Nigerian NyQuil. This guy's so fucking boring. Every fight goes to decision. And I remember when GSP was champion. Oh my God, every fight goes to decision. okay, cool. He's still the champ. I mean, at the end of the day, all that matters is winning, and Bilal Muhammad is a winner. So, it's funny to see people, and I don't know if you're one of these people, and if you were, no disrespect intended, just trying to make my point, but people are picking a 40-year-old Wonder Boy who literally got taken down. Every single time Wonder Boy has been taken down one time or more in any of his fights, he hasn't won, and Bilal's a takedown machine. So that was beautiful to see, and now I think he's ready for that prime time. If he can go out there and beat Chimaev, I mean, I don't see why not give the guy a title shot. So I think that people are sleeping on Bilal. For some reason, they don't take him as seriously as I do. But when you put up the numbers that he does, I mean, when you're unbeaten in 10 of your last 11, that means you're a fucking winner, and that means you're going to be right up there. He goes out there and he beats Chimaev. I'm sorry, but he's fighting for a belt. And on the flip side, Chimaev goes out there, finishes Bilal, no brainer either. So my prediction is this time next year, Khamzat Chimaev or Bilal Muhammad will be the UFC welterweight champion.
I'm actually just going to build on that because it's one of my predictions too. I share this one with you, but I'm going to tweak it just a little bit, right? And I'm actually going to call upon the services of a contender that dispatched Bilal Muhammad. He is the one in that 11-fight streak, and that's Vicente Luque. And here's my only hitch with Bilal. I see everything you're saying from a skills perspective. I think Bilal, maybe he could present an interesting threat even to Chimaev, who I rate as that other guy, that other contender in the welterweight division who's surging right now, and whose talent is very clear, in my opinion. You could look at his regional run and the devastating knockouts he accrued there. He one-punched Gerald Meerschaert, who, Mahmoud Muradov couldn't get out of there. It's like, I just think that this guy is on the level for sure. Chimaev is going to take that big step up this year. But Vicente Luque, man, he's got that dynamism at the top of the weight. He can submit you if you try and grapple. He can knock you out if you stand on the feet with him. And he's tougher than all hell, man. Like, in the same way that Bilal Muhammad is tougher than all hell, when I look at him match up with Usman, I'm like, is he going to out wrestle him? No, in my opinion. Is he going to outstrike him? I don't think so. So is he going to out cardio him? It seems unlikely. It's like, is he going to be more physical? I'm just not sure. That's where I think that Bilal might run into a hitch with a guy like Usman. He's sort of that all-around guy. Usman is too. I think that Vicente Luque, dynamic threats in every position. That's what I see. That's why I think he could take out somebody like Kamaru Usman, who gets dinged, who gets touched on the chin, who's been a little bit more wobbly, who's a little stiff in the knees. I think that Vincente's got a really good game to take him out. I think he's got better hardware than Gilbert Burns and a similar kind of game. So I think he could bring a big threat to Kamaru if he gets the opportunity, but he might have shot himself in the foot by not making weight when he was the backup fighter, man. That's something that'll piss off the UFC. So maybe that'll put a hitch in my plans, but I think that Kamaru Usman is not destined to be the champion in 2023. Age is a big factor. Durability starting to wane. I think the miles are adding up for him a little bit. And, this is his second career in combat. He was a world-class wrestler and honed his craft for many years to do that. I think that, the wear that has on your body at a competitive weight like 170, I don't see it lasting another year.
Yeah, actually, Shaq, longtime co-host of Half the Battle, he thinks that Vicente Luque is the dark horse of the welterweight division. And I mean, look, I can't debate that Vicente beat Bilal. I mean, that did happen. However, I also can't debate that was over half a decade ago. Joanna Jędrzejczyk was champion. Eddie Alvarez was champion. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was so fucking long ago that I think that Bilal's proven that. I mean, well, just to put it in perspective, Bilal was completely unranked back then. Now he's the number 5 guy on planet Earth. So I think he has improved. My thing with Vicente is I think he's the most dangerous guy in the division. I mean, that left hook, that Darce choke, those calf kicks. I mean, I can't say enough good things about him. My only issue with Vicente Luque is I do think he kind of gets hit a little bit too much. And I mean, he's got an iron jaw. It's just, when you're talking about the judges, I mean, wasn't Brian Barberena going to win a decision had he not been knocked out? I don't know if that's true or not. I've just heard something similar. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. But is he a threat to the title? I mean, he could be because he's dangerous enough to finish anyone. I don't think Gilbert Burns is a threat to the title. Reason being is, yes, he's got that one punch power. Yes, he's an unbelievable black belt in jiu-jitsu, but he tends to fade as fights progress. And no one bring up this fucking Woodley fight, please, that he went 5 rounds in. Like, yeah, he can go 5 rounds when your opponent throws 0 strikes back at you. But I'm talking about these elite killers that are going to make you work for every second of every round. So I don't see Burns as a threat to the title whatsoever. Vicente is a threat to anybody just because of how dangerous he is, but my issue is how hittable he is. He has gassed out in fights in the past. You remember the Leon Edwards fight, but then again, that was a long ass time ago. The dude's made improvements. And then Hamzat, my only thing with Hamzat, I mean, he's got the goods. He's great everywhere. He's got the confidence, the size. My only thing is like if someone can survive, not necessarily an early storm, but like if someone can drag him into those deep waters, like take him to that third, fourth, fifth round. Because another thing about Bilal Muhammad is a lot of these fights have been 3-round fights, and he's one of those guys that kind of slowly but methodically breaks you. And I think that if you give Bilal a fourth and fifth round, that's where he might start to finally get those finishes. And that's why I want to see Hamzat and Bilal, because if Hamzat just goes out there and starches him early or choke or becomes the first man to submit him, hey, here's your title shot, young man. But I want to see if Bilal can make him work. I mean, Bilal's got good takedown defense. He stuffed 23 takedowns from Damian Maia. Bilal can also get takedowns, as you saw in the Wonderboy fight. Bilal can also go out there and land 200 plus strikes like he did in the Lima fight. So, I know Hamzat, Lima, this and that. I'm just bringing up like that this guy can like pretty much do everything minus the one punch knockout. And that's not, you don't have to have one punch knockout power to be a champ. So for me, it's Hamzat and Bilal will be the champ this time next year. For you, it's Hamzat or Luque.
That's correct.
Okay. So that's our first, that is our first bold prediction for this time next year. All right. Our second one. I mean, I've been saying this since day one, so you guys probably aren't surprised about this, but I think Jamal Hill, the 205er, is going to be in the top 5 this time next year. I think eventually he fights for a title. Just, right now, I think the Rakic's and Yuri, I think more so those guys are going to be in the running in 22 for the title shot, and Khalif as well. But I think that Jamal Hill is going to start to work his way up, go out there, knock out Johnny Walker, knock out one of these other guys, and then end the year in the top 5. I mean, because the thing I love so much about Hill is that, well, firstly, he's got the size. I mean, 6'4" with the 80-inch reach. He's already, one of the bigger men in the weight class. But I've never seen a 205er who has like the output of a bantamweight, but has the one hitter quitter of, a man his size. So it's like, when was the last time you saw a 205er go out there in a 3-round fight and land over 100 significant strikes like he did in his debut? That get-up game. I mean, when people try to take him down, he pops right back up. The Paul Craig fight, if someone brings that up, Paul Craig didn't take him down. Jamal Hill, he had to take his first loss. He got cocky. He thought, man, I can follow this guy to the ground, get on top of him, and pound him out. Big mistake, And did you hear how he reacted to that loss? Did you hear how much accountability he took? Did you hear how he said, dude, I disrespected the game, and that's why I lost? And you see the pictures of him partying with Paul Craig that night. Like those are the signs of a future world champion. The signs of a journeyman is someone who's like, oh, he just wanted to tie up. He just wanted to hug me, or he didn't really want to fight. He just wanted to hold me down. And it's like, well, if you get held down against your own will, like how is that doing nothing? So I just don't agree with that mindset. But Jamal, he said all the right things, comes out there that next fight against Jimmy Crute. Yeah, Jimmy Crute's had some ups and downs, but who the fuck has ever handled Jimmy Crute like that? Handled Jimmy Crute like he didn't belong. Handled Jimmy Crute in a way where we might not see Jimmy Crute for a full year. So, I mean, he smashed his orbital. So, yeah, I think Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill will be in the top 5 this time next year in the light heavyweight division.
Dude, this one, I again can't push back on at all. I think that Jamal Hill is a real threat. I did end up betting him against Crute last time out.
My man.
Small. I got to be honest. It was a small play for me, but I thought that he had an outside chance. I was kind of surprised at the pricing. And yeah, man, I did not think it was going to go down quite like that. I thought he was going to have to survive that grappling storm. He never even let the grappling storm get underway. He punched the clouds as they were forming, and it was all over. But I think that he's a real handful. His hand speed is tremendous. He throws in a ton of volume, like you mentioned. Paul Craig is kind of a unique threat. Everybody else's dark horse for the year, Ankalaev, got submitted by him as well. Doesn't really throw me for a loop. I think that he's a real talent, and he's got a tremendous upside. So I can't really push back on that. But my number 2 has nothing to do with the light heavyweight division. It's actually women's bantamweight. I think Juliana Pena is going to beat Amanda Nunes again inside the distance. And what I think is going to be interesting about that is actually that I don't think she's going to win the next fight. I think that this is a unique, poor style matchup for Amanda Nunes. And the more I've revisited that first fight, the more I felt that way. Juliana Pena is kind of a reckless brawler, right? And she was getting hurt even in that first fight a little bit. I thought Amanda was going to be leagues better at jiu-jitsu, so I expected her to run away with it on the ground. But even when she got to top position, she kind of just got stalled out. She wasn't really advancing. She wasn't doing a ton of damage, and she was the one getting more tired by the exchange. I think that that's not going to bode well for her the next time out. Amanda never had great cardio, but normally she's able to keep women off her with the threat of her punches and her damage. It's possible that she damages Pena and knocks her out, but that's not a great likelihood in a women's fight. That's not what I want to bank on, certainly. And they're again pricing her as a significant underdog. I think that that's a little bit, interesting to me, based on what we saw, based on what we've seen from Amanda in terms of, that wasn't really a fight for that title at the end there. It was just, oh, okay, you got it. You take the championship now. So for me, that's a huge red flag and concern as well. And for me, that points to Amanda sort of conceding this belt. I don't know that Juliana Pena is necessarily the most skilled 135er in the world, but she was the better woman on that night. And I think that she could be the better woman again against Amanda if Amanda's checked out of the game and ready to move on to a family and do other things. So I think it's going to be the next title challenger after who is the champion at the end of the year. And that's my prediction. Whomever challenges Juliana Pena next after she beats Amanda Nunes ends the year as champion. Maybe Irene Aldana, somebody like that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I can't debate. And the reason being is this. Oftentimes you hear these long-term champions talk about how relieved they feel that they don't have the pressure of being the champion anymore. And I think that Amanda Nunes falls under that category. I mean, you heard Anderson Silva when he got knocked out by Chris Weidman at UFC 162 in Las Vegas, Nevada, about how, man, it's like, it was almost like a relief. Like, because like, dude, being a champ, there's so much pressure, especially a long range. I'm not talking about your first couple title defenses where you're enthused, and I'm talking about after you've been doing this for so long, everybody wants a piece of you. I'm not just talking about the division. I'm talking about people in your personal life. Like you're the champ. Like now, your cousin you haven't spoken to in 10 years is hitting you up for money and just a bunch of stuff. So now the reason I know that Amanda, look, I think Amanda's a better fighter, but the better fighter doesn't always win. Sometimes it's who wants it more. And one thing about Pena, which is, I mean, she's been submitted twice. So, but in this specific fight, I mean, Amanda tapped out to a no hooks rear naked choke, and the Mata Leon was not even locked in. It was she was kind of like, you can have it. So when that happens, there's just this big mental dynamic between Amanda and Juliana, whereas I just think that Juliana now, I think so. I mean, before I thought Amanda was just gonna, I thought, dude, Juliana's way too sloppy for Amanda. Are you fucking kidding me? But if Amanda wants to raise her kid and doesn't want to be champ anymore, then Juliana's gonna beat her a second time. It would have to be Amanda would literally have to take a break, go back to the drawing board, refine that motivation, rekindle that flame, and decide if she really still has the heart to be a world champion. Because, I mean, you'd think that someone that was such a long reigning champion, like, at least get those hooks in, at least put me to sleep, like at least like show that you were willing to, because what I'm trying to say is, like, Peter Yan, he'll die to keep his undisputed belt. Fucking Kamaru Usman, I mean, this guy's willing to go through hell to keep Alex Volkanovski. Okay, the guillotine, the mounted guillotine that Brian Ortega put on Volkanovski, that was about 100 times tighter than what Juliana put on Amanda. And it just goes to show that Volk was willing to die in there. I mean, so right here, right now, this guy is, the true champion. And Amanda, she had enough. And I don't want people to call her a quitter. I don't want people to criticize her because, dude, she changed the game. You remember when she knocked out Ronda Rousey. You remember when she destroyed Miesha Tate, the incredible run she went on, knocked out Cyborg, won belts in 2 divisions. What else is there to fucking accomplish, man? She's not hungry anymore, as evidence in what happened in that fight. So, dude, you will not get a disagreement with me on this one. Anything you want to add to that before I move on?
I think that, I could see it in the first round when she's standing there, like smiling on top of her, like looking around. She was like taking it all in, man. It seemed like she was like, all right, this was all fun. I'm good. I think that that's hard to come back from. And she was talking about retirement, I think, before the fight as well. If you have even those thoughts in your head, man, it's a real concern for me. And I think at the championship level, especially, the other people aren't thinking about, the next thing they're going to do after fighting. They're thinking about the next fight they're going to have after this one. So it's just a lot different. And I think Juliana, she is sloppy. She showed that she's still sloppy. She made significant improvements, in my opinion. Her striking looked leaps and bounds from one to the other. I think Valley Flow deserves a lot of credit for that, but that was just not a high level looking fight from either lady. Really. It was very sloppy, barnyard brawling.
But that's Juliana's fight. And the fact that Amanda engaged her in that, and then obviously the finishing result. Yeah, I just don't think she still has that same hunger to be champion. And there's nothing wrong. You heard Matt Hughes when he got choked out by BJ Penn talk about how, man, it was actually kind of a relief to not have to fucking have that pressure of being the champ anymore. And yeah, so we're in agreement here that even if Amanda takes the belt back from Juliana, I don't like, what is she about to go on this big title run again? Like, dude, once it's over, it's over. And someone do me a favor, look up the history of long reigning champions. When they lose their belt and then they come back for the rematch, they don't win that often. Like, they usually rarely win that rematch, whether it's Anderson Silva, whether it's Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I should have came here and listed all my examples, but those are 2 off the top of my head. So yeah, we're in agreement. My number 3, I think Giga Chikadze is going to fight for a title in 2022. I mean, listen, I understand we love Cater because he's a badass. I mean, and I was the guy that when Cater was that huge underdog in his debut against Andre Fili, I was the guy saying, guys, do not parlay Andre Fili. And yeah, that might sound like, yeah, duh. But at the time, Andre Fili was like minus 300. At the time, Andre Fili was everybody's parlay leg. And I saw something in this Cater guy that I thought he could make it to the top 5. Well, right now he is number 5 on planet Earth, but I think that's where it ends. And the reason being is that to actually not just be number 5, but to actually make it to, to the Volks, to the Max Holloways, to eat. I personally am very high on Yair Rodriguez. You need more than just a solid jab and a right hand. And I mean, don't get me wrong, that right hand is money. And yeah, I understand Cater's got kicks. I understand that he's got wrestling too, but guys, he rarely uses that. It's with Rob Font and Calvin Cater, it's always been the same thing. They got a nasty jab to set up that money right hand. And I just don't see a one-dimensional boxer with a negative strike ratio beating Giga Chikadze in a fight. Like, the way Giga would lose this fight is from whooping Calvin's ass so bad that he gasses out and it's a comeback finish from Calvin Cater. The way that Giga Chikadze loses this fight is he gets overly cocky and, Cater lands the beautiful right hand that has floored a lot of people. Aside from that, it's going to, I mean, I hate to, I want y'all to know I'm being sarcastic when I say things like this, but it's going to be liver transplant season for Calvin Cater come January 15th. I put 5 units on Giga Chikadze. The only reason I didn't make this prediction, Giga will be the champion, is because the kind of respect I have for Volkanovski. I mean, when you go to Rio and you 30-27 Jose Aldo, when you dethrone the great Max Holloway and then you have a rematch with him and Max looks motivated, looks revitalized those first 2 rounds, then you make those champ adjustments in the last 3, defend the belt, controversial or not. I mean, those last 3 rounds, I mean, Volk won. And then you come back out there against Ortega, get caught in in a submission that 90% of the division is going to sleep or tapping to, and the guy survives. Like, that's a world champ. And I think his feinting game is the best in the entire UFC. So that's the only reason that I'm not quite ready to say Giga will be champion. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But I am ready to say Giga will fight for a UFC world title after he dismantles Calvin Kattar January 15th.
Dude, I love this one. And, I'm going to say this. I'm in the middle of my tape study on the Kattar and Chikadze fight, but I will offer you just a little bit of pushback, right? So I went back and I was watching Giga's kickboxing matches. That's actually what I was doing today when I saw your tweet, and I thought it was funny. I was like, hey, let me hop on. And I know you got a big play on this fight. I like Giga a lot. And he shut up the entire fight community. It felt like against Edson Barboza. Felt like most people were betting against him there, especially in the Twitter community. And he silenced the doubters in that spot. But I am interested to see how Calvin Kattar responds here. Really like life altering, potentially beating at the hands of Max Holloway last time, which I think is a cause for concern. However, I do think that Calvin Kattar, he offers some interesting tools here. He catches kicks a decent portion of the time because he gets hit with them a lot. That's the other concern there. So like Dan mentioned, that liver kick, I feel like Calvin, he's never been stopped with strikes in his career, and he's had a pretty long career now.
Yet.
Yes, and that's fair. This could be the guy. But I also have seen that Calvin catches these kicks and responds with a 1-2. That is how Giga did get floored one time in kickboxing. So he lost to Matt Embry, a Canadian kickboxer and Muay Thai fighter. It was a good fight, back and forth, but it was a guy who was like Calvin's size, catching kicks, and caught a kick, returned a right hand, was, I believe, at a striking negative differential in that contest. And I think he only has a slight positive differential for his career. And he knocked out Giga Chikadze, flattened him twice. But that being said, that's a world-class Muay Thai striker who they were talking about was like competing in Thailand against the Thais in Muay Thai. So he's an absolute beast. Matt Embry's a savage. And Calvin Kattar doesn't have quite as diverse a game. I wish that he wrestled more in this kind of fight. If he has the background, he just doesn't use it based on the statistics. Giga Chikadze has actually spent more time grappling in his UFC fights than Calvin Kattar. So that'll tell you everything you need to know about Calvin Kattar's wrestling. I think Giga could definitely make it to that title fight, but I think this is a good time to say my next prediction, which is Alexander Volkanovski ends the year #1 pound for pound. And I think that he's got a decent opportunity to do so. I already mentioned, I think the #1 guy loses. He's #2 on the list right now. That could be a pretty seamless way to move up. But the other thing is, how do you argue against the guy if he stacks another Max Holloway win, right? That's 3 Max Holloway wins, a Jose Aldo win, a Chad Mendez win. It's like, what are you going to do to discredit the guy? A Brian Ortega win where he survives adversity. It's like the guy has just answered every question, checked every box. And, you want to wrestle, he could wrestle. You want to strike, he could strike. You want to be a world-class kickboxer, he'll beat you in a stand-up points kickboxing match. It's like, what do you say to that guy? Salute. That's what I say. God bless.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know if he will or won't end the year pound for pound #1, but what I do know is when you talk about a champion, you talk about Alexander Volkanovski. I mean, the guy is just absolutely phenomenal. You know his story. I mean, we don't got to talk about how this dude was like 215 pounds as a rugby player. Now he's the featherweight champion. And back to the Giga talk, because you did bring up, he's showing more on the mat than Calvin has. Well, Calvin did take down Andre Fili twice, but Giga, I know my boy Liam remembers that anaconda attempt he had on Edson Barboza. And a lot of people don't know this about Giga Chikadze because they just talk about his kickboxing credentials, and rightfully so. But Giga Chikadze, he won a jiu-jitsu world champion at blue belt, and now he currently is a brown belt. So I don't think we're dealing with a situation where it's like, just take Giga down and you're just going to have your way with him. Yeah, just because when he was like 5-1, he lost to some bum on Contenders. Guys, he's like 14-2 now. Like 5-1 and 14-2 is a tale of like Calvin Kattar got submitted by some bum a long ass time ago. Shit happens. Kamaru Usman got submitted by a bum like, guys, these things, this is part of the process of getting to the top if you're going to get there. And I think that Giga will get there. So Giga versus the winner of Volk and Max is, I mean, I'm not trying to overlook Kattar. I just got my money down on Giga. I truly believe he wins that fight. Dude, Giga versus Max, Giga versus Volk, Giga versus Yair. I mean, come on, dude. Like, is that not what the featherweight division's all about?
I think that currently the betting community on betmma.tips is minus 1,700 units or something betting against Giga Chikadze. So you could take that one to the bank, my man. Yeah.
And I don't understand why. Why? Because he looked like shit when he was 5-1. And now it's like people like look at something that happened like half a decade ago. It was a little bit less than that, but half, you know, well, it was what, 2018 or something. And I was at a Arctic Monkeys concert that night, I remember. And like my buddy had a bet on Giga against Springer, and Giga was like winning most of the fight, and then he pulled a stunt, and he texted me like, "Yo, Giga lost." I was like, "Wait, what?" against that guy? But yeah, it was 5-2 at the time. Now motherfucker's 14-2. So like those are the growing pains. That's part of paying your dues, is having those ups and downs. I mean, you remember when Beneil Dariush in his second UFC fight got knocked out by Ramsey Nijem? You understand what I'm saying? You remember when he got knocked out by Alex Hernandez? Well, now the guy's number 3 on planet Earth. So guys, it's fighting. People are going to get hit. People are going to get hurt. People are going to get knocked out. But what truly, you know, separates, I don't want to say the men's from the boys, because, you know, it's funny, in 2021, you got to watch what you say, which is fucking annoying. But what separates, you know, the elite from the not elite is the guys that can pick themselves back up, the guys that can learn from their mistakes, come back. Whereas, like, I'm questioning, look, I know Cater's hungry. I know Cater's coming here to fight. Like, that's not a debate. It's just like, yes, he's never been finished with strikes, but like, does that mean it can't happen? I mean, I saw him wobbling all over the place. I mean, he should have been finished his last fight. I don't know. I think the ref had the over or the max by decision prop. Or
yeah, fight goes.
You know, because it's like, come on, man. He was wobbling all over the place and to head kicks too, which I can't wait to break that fight down. We can stick on this for a while, but my boy is saying Volkanovski ends the year not just the champion, but the number 1 pound for pound fighter on planet Earth. And I mean, you're not going to get a debate from me. The guy, I do think he's that good. My only prediction here is Giga will fight for the UFC world title this year. All right. Number 4. I think Paddy Pimblett has an undefeated year in the UFC, and I think that Terrence McKinney doesn't. Let me explain why. So Paddy Pimblett, he's the new kind of hype train. You know, he speaks well. He's been getting the finishes. He's been getting the good matchups. But because he's that guy that's got all the attention, people love to hate on him. That's just how this shit works. But if you actually go back and watch his career, he's paid his dues. I mean, he's already had those 5-round fights outside the UFC. He's already taken his losses. He's already been laid on by vets back when he was like 22, 23. And again, like, just to like the point we were talking about, well, what kind of man is he? What kind of, hold on a sec. My boy's saying, Dan, no way. I think Paddy gets KO'd this year. Yeah, by who? Let me know by who. But Paddy paid his dues outside the UFC. So yeah, maybe he looked like shit half a decade ago against Nadin Armani when he was like somewhere between 19 and 22 years old. Now he's 25, 26, starting to, you know, grow into his grown man body. And that first fight against Luigi, look, I understand Luigi is 1-3 in the UFC. That's a fact. But let me state another fact. All 4 opponents that Luigi fought all got hurt. I mean, let's talk about it. Zaleski got his. If you can take Zaleski's back in your UFC debut after surviving a deep Peruvian necktie attempt, all right, you're dangerous. You're a beast. Knocked out the guy that Darren Till dropped 7 times and couldn't finish, Justin Ayari. Goes out there. What's his other fight besides Paddy? Do you remember off the top of your head? Goes out there against Paddy. Lands a vicious shot on Paddy. Paddy ate it like a champ and then came back. So like every single time Luigi's been, oh yeah, and the Fereziam fight, like that 3rd round of the Fereziam fight, some people thought it might have been a 10-8. So what I'm trying to say is, even though Luigi is 1-3 in the UFC, he's a dangerous guy and he's had moments in all 4 of his fights. So the fact that so the way I view the one punch he landed against Paddy, I'm like, okay, so we're holding it against Paddy that he got punched in a fist fight against a hard hitter and then ate it fine and came back and knocked the guy out. Like, to me, like, I'm just like, oh, he's got a good chin. Perfect. Great. That's what I want to see. So I think this guy's got the confidence. And since he is who he is, since he's marketing himself how he is, since he's approaching the fight game how he is, I think he's a guy that is going to get some good, nice favorable matchups here. And I don't think that his head's exploding. I don't think that I'm seeing, have you seen Terrence McKinney on Twitter by chance? Terrence McKinney, he knocked out a guy in Frivola who I respect, but let's just keep it 100. Frivola gets dropped every single fight. I mean, and he's been knocked out in under a minute more than once. Go watch the Polo Reyes fight. So yeah, you drop the guy that gets dropped every single fight, and now we're acting like this kid's the second coming of Christ. So, and then every single day, the stuff Terrence is saying on Twitter, I mean, I see him for sure taking an L because I think his head exploded after that that win he got, man. Like, so, and I think you got to have your head on straight in this game. I think this guy's head's exploded, and for that reason, I think that Terrence will take an L this year. He's a good kid, but I think he's going to take his first L this year in the UFC. But Paddy, on the other hand, when I hear him actually talk, like he's got that thing, man. Like it's not just about the confidence, but it's not to a point of arrogance like with Terrence. I think Terrence is arrogant, whereas I think Paddy is confident, and I think Paddy's going to get good matchups this year. Whereas Terrence, they're matching him up with another hot prospect in Fares Ziam, so it's a prospect showdown. Whereas I see Paddy getting like a Donald Cerrone his next fight, or getting to take advantage of, if Ally Quinta was still around. Let's go. What is it? Out with the old and in with the new. So my thing is Paddy will have an undefeated 2022 and Terrence McKinney won't.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, where Paddy is probably going to get the elevator, where they're like, Terrence, take the stairs. And the stairs involve Fares Ziam. And just full disclosure, I had money on Fares Ziam in that matchup. And I do think Terrence McKinney's a fun guy. I think he's a good fighter. He was having really good minutes on the feet with Sean Woodson and taking him down at will early in their fight. May have some cardio issues. That seems like a potential concern for Terrence because he was doing really well. It seemed to like space out. I don't know what happened. Like just let go of him, turned around, flying knee, and it's all over. I think that Fares Ziam is a tough matchup for him, but let's say he wins that one. He's going to get matched up with somebody even better than Fares. So it's like, it's not going to get any softer in terms of your landing in the UFC. It's going to be murderer's row for him all the way up. Whereas Paddy, like you said, he's going to take the elevator. He's going to get the back door as well. They're going to find a Tony Ferguson or a Donald Cerrone on their way out of the game and try and get him those favorable matchups. So I can see what you're saying. I do think Paddy, he fights with a tremendous deal of risk, but he skirts the edge really well, man. And he's a dangerous guy too. So if you want to play him in that, margin of risk, he'll take you too. And he'll finish you quick and make a highlight of you like he did with Luigi. So I thought that was an impressive performance. I'm interested to see, what he does moving forward. Didn't have any action on that one. Wanted to gather data, and I'm probably going to do the same with the next fight for Paddy, unless he's fighting Cowboy.
Yeah. So let's listen, Ally Quinta, let's phone him up, offer him a few extra G's on that paycheck. Come take this L to Paddy, man. Let's pad this record up with guys that people know. So I'm excited to see his future. So what's your number 4, my man?
So I'm going to go bold here with this one as well. And maybe I'm crazy, but this is, I think both number 1 pound for pound on the women's side, on the men's side are going to take the fall this year. And that's Kamaru Usman on the men's side. That's Valentina Bullet-Shevchenko on the women's side. And, I got in my notes here, she's 33.
Oh, I think my boy froze out. Hey, y'all in the chat, is it me or him that froze out? I'm pretty damn sure it's him, right? Let us know right now who froze out right now. Liam, what's up, bro? You still here?
Yes, sir. Sorry about that. Right as I'm dropping the goods on our girl Valentina. But what I was basically saying was she's turning 34 in March. I think that is, she's kind of in that same kind of territory where we see Amanda in. I do think she has more credible skills. I think she's got a well-balanced game. However, you look at the quality of the talent that you see coming up at 125. I know there's somebody on your list, Erin Blanchfield, that's been impressing me too, winning me some cheddar on the other side. But on top of that, you see a lot of women that I think are more physical, more credible challenges for her than some of the challengers she's taken on thus far. A bunch of vets that were on their way out.
Shit, my boy's doing the robot.
I think now she's gonna get that new
Hold on. We
from
can't be roboting. Hold on. We're gonna let him back in here. Just can't be. I can't give the fans no robot, no ringtone music. Come on now. Hey, Liam, just I don't know if you can hear me or not, but do a quick restart. It's cool. I can talk about what you were saying here. I'm gonna remove you real quick if you can hear me, and then do your little refresh, and then come back in. Hey, can you hear me now, buddy?
I can hear you now, my man. Sorry about that.
I
Brutal.
don't know what's
Wi-Fi is
happened.
brutalizing me.
What happened? You started to do the robot. I thought we were listening to some ringtone music from 25 years ago or some shit.
Oh, brutal. Well, basically, I'll end with I think that Shevchenko could lose this year. I think the challengers are getting better, and I think it's only natural. Father Time's undefeated. She'll be getting worse. 34 years of age. I feel like she might be ripe for the picking. Seen a little bit of chinks in the armor. The the Maya fight. She had some problems in getting controlled by somebody a little more physical. I think that the challenges are going to get more stiff from here. And I think whether it's Erin Blanchfield from the dark horse position or somebody else like Farrow, like Grasso, like Lee, like Talia Santos that's been cutting their teeth in the division, I think they might be primed and ready to turn over that 125 division. I think Shevchenko would be wise to move up and try and fight Juliana Pena, a much more winnable fight.
Someone she beat already.
Exactly. So I think that that's a good career move for her. Improves her legacy and also vacates that 125-pound spot. Basically, I think Valentina is not 125-pound champ by the end of this year.
Yeah, I mean, look, I can see it for a variety of reasons. Yes, is Valentina head and above the competition? Yeah, but again, when you talk about these long reigning champions, at what point, you have everything you want, you got all the belts, the silk sheets expression, the whole what else is there to do? Like, you cleared out the division. So these things, how it goes with the long reigning champions. Eventually, they're not going to be as motivated. Eventually, the pressure of being the champ is too much, or eventually they just meet that next generation fighter that's going to come out and take them out. And what's funny to ponder the fact or the idea rather that someone that lost to Mara Romero Barella might be a UFC world champion and beat Valentina. So it's funny. So when you do the MMA math, you'll be like, well, Barella beat Taila Santos, but Taila Santos beat Valentina Shevchenko. Therefore, Mara Barella is the women's MMA GOAT. You know what I'm saying, Liam? So yeah, it's funny how the shit works. That's why you should never go off that MMA math. But I mean, look, I can't disagree with you. Look, I don't think Andrade is going to dethrone her, as you saw. Caitlin Chukagian, hell no. Lauren Murphy, no. Jennifer Maia, no. But let's talk about Jennifer Maia. She won a round. The fact that average fighters, I know she's number 4 on planet Earth, so don't come after me. But the fact that she's average compared to Valentina. Let's not front. The fact that fighters like that are, she won a round. Like, that's a fucking moral victory. So what's going to happen as this next generation starts to improve? And Valentina, like, at what point is it like, I'm ready to just live on my farm and go hunting and fuck this, fighting shit. So yeah, I don't think she'll be the champ at the end of this year either. There's, let's see, Taila Santos, I think, is a big threat. Manon Fiorot, she needs a little more work, but she's a hell of a prospect. Andrea Lee's been doing her thing. I'm just worried. I just think that Valentina could take down Andrea Lee, and I don't think that Andrea Lee's striking is better. But at the same time, that shit doesn't always matter. Like Juliana versus fucking Amanda. It doesn't matter who the better fighter is. Sometimes it's about who the hungrier fighter is. And y'all keep your eye on Erin Blanchfield. I'll get to that here in a little bit. So back to this. Okay. My number 5, and this is an easy one. I think Peter Yan is still going to be the undisputed bantamweight champion. And guys, I know that some people like find it like maybe offensive or maybe like crass or harsh or this or that I call Peter the undisputed champ. But like, is Peter not the best bantamweight on planet Earth? Did Peter not whoop on Aljo? And don't don't bring up these fucking numbers that say, oh, Aljo landed 200 strikes and Peter only landed 150. It's like, yeah, but look at the quality of the strikes. I mean, when Peter lands strikes, bodies hit the floor. When Aljo lands strikes, I mean, did you see a mark on Peter's face? So that was the kind of ass whooping where I see. Here's my thing. Like I wanted to come on here and be like, one of my bold predictions is I don't think Aljamain Sterling shows up to the Peter Yan fight. I'm not convinced that happens, though. Reason being, I mean, look, he weaseled his way to this belt. I mean, the honorable thing to do would have been to, firstly, I know he could have continued just like Anthony Smith, but do you remember when back in the WEC, when Chael Sonnen fought Paulo Filho for a title? Paulo Filho was the champ. Paulo Filho missed weight. And back then, if anyone missed weight for the title fight, it was no longer a title fight. Whereas nowadays, if someone misses weight, the guy that didn't miss weight is still eligible to win the belt, but the guy that missed isn't. But back then, it wasn't like that. So Chael goes out there and beats Paulo Filho. And Paulo Filho, you know what kind of man he is? He's the kind of man that he put that WEC belt in a box and shipped it to Chael Sonnen's door. Like, if Aljamain Sterling did a deed like that, do you know how much respect we'd have for him? Like, if Aljamain Sterling was like, hey, I'm not the champ, let me vacate this, like, because this does not belong to me, he'd like he would catapult to being like one of the most respected fighters. And the reason I bring that up, because if you think that Aljamain Sterling is taking heat right now, just wait till you see what happens when Peter Yan ends him and Aljo's never the same. So yeah, I think Peter Yan, I mean, I think he's still going to be the undisputed champ. I mean, when you look at these rankings, and let me pull them up right now. So Bantamweight, you got the champ Peter Yan, you got the number one contender Aljamain Sterling, and again, let me bring this up too. When people hear me talk about Aljamain Sterling, they think, "Oh my God, you're such a hater. Why do you hate Aljamain Sterling so much?" Actually, I don't hate him at all, and in fact, I think he's a phenomenal fighter. And to take it a step further, I think that Aljamain Sterling is the clear-cut number one contender in the bantamweight division, and I think that he's great. I'll even say he's phenomenal. However, he's not the champ. The champ is Peter Yan, and that's the only distinction I want to make. Like, do I think Aljo's a great fighter? Fuck yeah. Do I think he beats Rob Font? Yeah, he probably does. Like, I think he beats a lot of these guys. He already has beat a lot of these guys, but like, he's just not the world champ. Like when you think about someone winning a belt, that comes with a lot. Now everybody wants to have you VIP at their club. Now everybody wants to be your friends. Now you're getting these big time endorsements. Now the world is yours. Like my boy Tony Montana said, do you really think that people are advertising that UFC champ Aljamain Sterling is coming to their club? No, because no one considers this guy the fucking champ. You know, and you saw that fucking awesome poster that came out, and they had the belt on Peter, but not on Aljo, and people are crying like little bitches about it. I mean, what are you crying about? Peter's the fucking champ. Like, they got into a fist fight, and one guy whooped the other guy's ass. So I don't understand how you can consider Sterling the champ. Like, he's not the champ. Yeah, I get he made a mistake. Okay, cool, but he's not. That Peter made a mistake, but I saw two men get into a fist fight, and I saw one guy whoop the other guy's ass. So how the fuck is Aljamain Sterling considered the champ? So the reason I didn't want to say that I think he won't show up for this fight as one of my bold predictions is because it's like, well, since you weaseled your way to this belt, well, now you get pay-per-view points. Now you get some of the perks of being a champ. So his paycheck's going to be a lot bigger in this Peter Yan fight. So that makes me think he's got incentive to show up. But I also, you know, I don't like talking about, you know, fighters being scared of other fighters, but I do think that Piotr Yan has struck the fear in the heart of Aljamain Sterling, and rightfully so. And I think that this time next year, this guy will still be the champ. And the challengers we're going to be looking at are the TJ Dillashaws, are the Merab Dvalishvilis, are the Marlon Chito Veras, are Sean O'Malley, possibly. I bring it up because it's a good striker versus striker matchup. But when you talk about out with the old and in with the new, like are you trying to tell me that Frankie Edgar is going to still be ranked in the top 15 this time next year? And that's all due respect to the legend, but let's just keep it 100. No, he's not. Do you think Marlon Moraes is going to be ranked in the top 10 this time next year? Fuck no. So the guys that are going to, you know, be challenging Piotr Yan, like I said, the TJ Dillashaw's, maybe even a Jose Aldo rematch, Merab Dvalishvili, Marlon Chito Vera, and possibly Sean O'Malley. So yeah, Peter Yan and still until this time next year. Oh shit, are you frozen again, brother?
Yeah.
Well, if he
No,
there you
sir.
go.
I can
Okay,
hear you.
okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, this is a fight where I definitely think that I think you're spot on the money, man. I think that, Piotr Yan, I do think we should see a more competitive fight here. I think Aljo completely fucked up his weight cut last time. And I do think that made him fight super anxious. I don't think Aljo's like afraid to fight with Piotr, but I do think that he's in an uphill battle. I think he's got the best guy in the world in front of him. I thought Aljo would be more competitive in the wrestling and grappling. He was not. So I do think maybe
real
we
quick.
see.
Since you brought that up, tell us what the takedown numbers were on that fight, please.
I think it was 7-0, but I don't have them off the top of my head.
It was 7-1, but thank you.
I got you, dude.
Thank you for confirming that it's not just Peter who's got a massive striking edge. When everyone's talking about, Aljo's just got to take him down, take his back. Oh, well, guess who was taking down who in that fight? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, there's levels to this
And
shit.
almost as just like a out of spite, it wasn't even takedowns where he's like trying to control him. He's like, take him down, pick him up in the air, sit him on his butt and let him stand back up. Kind of just dominance takedowns. I think that Piotr Yan's just a handful for everybody, physically, mentally, spiritually. Like the guy is just built for this battle shit, and he builds over 5 rounds. I think I had a hard time pegging the guy a little bit early because I would see him, lose moments to a lot of these guys. Jimmy Rivera comes to mind. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe he's like, got some holes in the game. Nah, he just builds and gets some information. And then he's very, very hard to beat. And so I think in a rematch scenario, that's going to be tough for Aljo. I think that he's going to be, done up on the feet, and he doesn't have the greatest cardio either. He's got cardio to go 15. I don't know if he has cardio to go 25. I know Yan has cardio to go 25. So I'm going to have to side with you there. I think that, it makes sense. He's the favorite. And when I look at that top tier of contenders, I think Peter Yan beats those guys. So I'm going to have to agree with you. Unfortunately, I'd love my boy Jose Aldo to get that title or one of those legends, Cruz to get back there. But I just think it's Piotr Yan's time. It's his division now. And sucks. I like Aljo a lot personally. I met him. Nice guy. But I do think that, Piotr Yan's probably not a nice guy. And that might be the difference. So that's the way the cookie crumbles at bantamweight.
Yeah, I mean, I think people need to understand that when I talk about Aljo, like, not only do I not have anything against him as a person, I don't know the fucking guy. Might be a cool guy, might not. I don't know. And again, I don't have any criticism.
I met him one time. That's why I said that.
Yeah, I don't have any criticism of how great of a fight. Like I consider Aljo to be the clear-cut number 1 contender. I think he beats 90+% of the division. I just don't consider him the champion. That's the distinction here. So, when people are like, oh, why are you such a Aljo hater? I'm not an Aljo hater. I'm just fucking stating facts. Like, this dude ain't the champ. Peter is. And that, yeah, because think about this. You remember when Anthony Lionheart Smith fought Johnny Bones Jones, got illegally kneed, had the chance to, take the easy way out and become the champ that way. Do you think that they'd still be calling Anthony Smith at the ESPN desk if he pulled a fucking stunt like that? Like, do you think that he would still have the respect, lion heart? Do you think people would still respect him like they always have? I don't. And I mean, yeah, he could have got the belt. He could have got the pay-per-view points and then got his ass whooped in the rematch by John Jones. He didn't do all that. And Aljo did. And like I said, if you think Aljo has it bad right now, just wait. Just wait till Piotr Yan dismantles him. If you think Aljo has it bad now in terms of the heat he's getting, that's all I got to say. So real quick before go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. If you got an ad plug, go right ahead, my man. Because I had a next one that just tied into the bantamweight division. That was all.
No ad plug. Go ahead and say it.
Oh, okay. Well, basically, man, I think that Song Yadong is going to find his way into the top 10 at Bantamweight. It's a crowded top 10, but I think you identified some of those key players are going to be on their way out potentially in the Frankie Edgars. I think it's like that 7 through 10 block of the division is all basically, one fight away from being outside of the top 15 looking in. I think that Song Yadong strikes me as somebody in that 10 through 15 range who's got that possibility to move up here. Impressed me against Julio Arce. The guy's got a pretty rock chin, Song Yadong, and he can deal out some damage. He's got a pretty meat and potatoes game, but I think he's athletic. He's got a lot of UFC experience now accumulated. I think he's a guy that could rise his stock, pretty significantly in this division. So that was a guy I had my eye on, and just because we were talking about bantamweights, I figured it fit right in.
Yeah, I mean, my only question about Song Yadong has nothing to do with his fighting skills. My only question about Song Yadong is how old is he? Because he was like 19 for like a fucking decade. He's been 23 for the last 5 years. Like, I just want to know how old he is. But, dude, not only do I agree with you, I agree with you to the point where I'm actually going to let you know the specific guys that are going to be removed from the top 10 to make room for not just Song Yadong. What about Ricky Simone? What about O'Malley? So I think the guys that are going to be leaving, they're going to be ushered out of the top 15 in the bantamweight division. Firstly, Frankie Edgar. I mean, look, Frankie Edgar, if you watch his fight with Tyson Griffin, I mean, that's one of the reasons that I'm such a hardcore fan of the sport. I mean, when you're talking about a guy who was a bantamweight, but he dethroned the great BJ Penn at lightweight, I mean, the kind of respect I have for Frankie Edgar, man, I mean, I love the guy. It's just, dude, you're 40 and it's all, you were a champ fucking in 2010, bro. It's 2022 now. So that's just how the circle of life and the fight game works. So I see Edgar out the top 15. Here's another one. Y'all might disagree with me on this, but you know who I think is low key on the decline? And yeah, I'm gonna get some shit for this, but I don't give a fuck. This is my opinion. Pedro Munoz. I think that finally, the dude's always just eating all your best shots and kept walking forward. I'm not saying that he's going to start getting knocked out in fights, but what I am saying is that he's going to start eating even more shots and landing less of his own. And he's going to start slowing down now that he's, getting up there 37, 38. So I see Edgar out the rankings. I see Pedro Munoz out the rankings. I see Rafael Asuncao out the rankings. I see Marlon Moraes out the rankings. So fuck yeah, I agree with you that Song Yadong is going to be a top 10. I mean, I'd have to be an idiot to disagree with you on this one because Song Yadong is the kind of guy that, let's say he actually is 23. Fuck it. Let's say he's 25. This is a guy that, do you know what kind of experience he already has? He went to a draw with Cody Stamann. He beat, albeit controversial, beat Chito Vera. I mean, look, fuck who you score that fight for. Can we all agree?
Unanimous.
But can we all agree it was a badass fucking serious competitive fight? Like again, fuck who you scored it for. Like it's all about the skill that was displayed. And I mean, he was out there banging with Chito for 3 rounds. I know the 3rd round didn't go his way, but those first 2, man, I mean, my boy was out here throwing some heat. The kid's got the power. The kid's his wrestling defense is getting better. His get-up game is on point. And now he's got the seasoning. He's got the experience. He's growing into that guy that a lot of people thought he could be when he first entered the UFC. So, I mean, I think that it would be almost categorically false for me to disagree with you on this. So, yeah, I do agree. Song Yadong will be in the top 10 this time next year. All right, number 6. So, I think Manel Kape and Tom Aspinall will both be top 5 guys in their respective divisions. So let me explain why. Manel Kape. All right. So let me find Flyweight here. I got the rankings pulled up. All right, here we go. Manel Kape currently sitting at number 14. Tim Elliott currently sitting at number 12. Matt Schnell currently sitting at number 9. You're fucking telling me Manel Kape can't come out here and spark these guys? Like, are you serious? So what I think is Manel Kape, he made his debut against Pantoja. Pantoja's the number 3 guy on planet Earth. Then he fought Mateus Nicolau. Mateus Nicolau is just as talented as anybody in the top 15. And those were competitive fights to get your feet wet. And not only that, to come from an organization where you wear fucking tennis shoes The refs got the earpiece in. It's just a different world. Now you're in the UFC's octagon barefoot, and you got to get used to it a little bit. But now he's coming off those two devastating knockouts against two tough ass opponents. I mean, look, Zalgas might, you might get backed up in a lot of fights. You might get bullied, but I ain't seen nobody starch Zalgas before. O'Day Osborne, he might be green. I ain't seen nobody starch O'Day Osborne before. And now what I think is going to happen is Manel Kape is going to shoot up, because there is a lot of room for this division to switch around. Like what I'm trying to say is, like, Matt Schnell is a top 10 guy, right? I'm trying to say Tim Elliott is a top 15 guy, right? So I think that there's a lot of room to move up. And what I like about Kape so much, I know sometimes he's inactive, and I don't think that it's a skill issue when he loses fights. I think it's a mental thing. And it's not mental in terms of he's quitting on himself. It's not mental in terms of he doesn't have that dog. It's mental in terms of he is so fucking confident in his power that the dude will literally chill out for like 2 minutes, not do anything. And then when he decides to land the shots of his own, I mean, you saw how Mateus Nicolau reacted to those shots. You saw how O'Day Osborne reacted. You saw how Zalga Zumagulov reacted. And I just think a lot of these guys aren't going to react well when they deal with this kind of speed, this kind of explosiveness. And to take it a step further, now that Kape is approaching that fifth UFC fight, now he's going to start to let it go more. Now he's going to start to feel more comfortable. And I'm pretty confident. I mean, the number 5 guy I'm playing earlier right now is Brandon Royval. I'm pretty fucking confident, and he's exciting. Don't get me wrong, I'm not talking shit, but I'm just saying I see a lot of things that can be exploited, and I think that Manel Kape is going to be that guy. I think he hits the top 5 before the year's up. And then Aspinall too, but first give me your comments on what I said about Kape.
Absolutely, my man. I tend to agree with you here. I think that flyweight is a division where like anybody could lose to anybody in that top 10. Very competitive fights. Lot of talented guys. And so I think Manel Kape, he's not going to have a free path up there, but I do think that he's got something that's hard to come by. It's like in the women's divisions, if you have power, it's a big difference because a lot of women don't have it. At 125 pounds, you see some guys that have that power, but a lot of guys are scramblers, they're all-arounders, they're grapplers. This guy's got that power, man, and he could scare people off with it, but he also has pretty slick counter wrestling. He's not some slouch on the mat. I've seen him, go for some cool takedowns of his own and reverse positions when guys try and get too quick and too clever in the grappling. So I think that Manel Kape is a real problem. I could see him in the top 5 for sure. I think he's one of those guys who might challenge for a title in 2022.
So we got my brother, Nasty Nate Williams from the fire department. I mean, my boy Nate, I always got to shout him out because, I mean, we're talking about a guy who he fights in the PFL. I mean, he just fought Don Madge. Yeah, it didn't go his way, but my boy went out there, hit 3 takedowns on Don Madge. They had a nice little fight. And, Nate's been busting his ass for so many fucking years that when he made it to the PFL, which, by the way, I mean, I'm not going to list numbers, but let's just say the pay is comparable to the UFC. So essentially Nate made it to a big show fighting on ESPN. He could have been like, dude, I don't need to fucking be at the fire department anymore. But that's the kind of guy this guy is. I mean, he's a father, he's a firefighter, but then he also just happens to be a badass professional fighter. So much love, Nate. You know how I feel, bro. That's the homie for life. So, and I appreciate you being here with us. All right, so now Tom Aspinall is my other guy that I think is going to crack the top 5. Okay, so with Tom Aspinall, firstly, he's got the size of a guy that, because so these smaller heavyweights, like the days of like a Cain Velasquez being a world champ, like those guys, like at the time, like you would never see anything like it. He was like the small guy, but was so fucking fast and like dudes just couldn't handle it. Whereas now you got guys like Cyril Gane, who's 6'5" with an 80-something inch reach, and he's faster than Cain Velasquez, who was like the small guy. So the sport's evolved to a point where now these guys are specimens. And this kid Aspinall, he's 6'5", he's got the 80-something inch reach. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but he likes to knock people out. Obviously you want to see what happens, what happens if a fight hits the 3rd round, but I don't have any reason to believe he's going to slow down based off what I've seen. He paces himself well. I like his footwork for a heavyweight. His hands are devastating. I like everything I'm seeing about Tom Aspinall. Like the two prospects were Chris Dawkins and Tom Aspinall. It was like a crash collision between them to see who makes it to the top 5. I picked Derek Lewis. Because Chris Dawkins, now he wasn't proven in terms of past the first round. Yeah, I know he whooped Shamil so bad that when it went to the second round, it was just adding insult to injury. But I'm talking about when you're being pushed, when there's some resistance. So Dawkins, I don't think he's that top 5 guy. Aspinall, however, I think he is. I think he's going to beat Shamil Abdurakhimov. And then from there, that's when things start to get tough, because that's when you got to deal with, the devastating power of a Jairzinho Rosenstrike. That's when you got to deal with the 6'7" Volkov. That's when you got to deal with a guy in Curtis Blades who's gone out there and landed 14 takedowns in a UFC fight. That's when you got to deal with Derek Lewis, who has the most knockouts, not just in heavyweight history, Liam, in UFC history. That's when you got to deal with Stipe Miocic, a 2-time UFC world champion. That's when you got to deal with a freak named Cyril Gane. That's when you got to deal with the hardest hitter on planet Earth, Francis Ngannou. So yeah, shit's about to start to get real after Tom Aspinall beats Shamil Abdurakhimov. But based off how he performs, I think that'll let us know where he stands. And quite frankly, I can see certain guys like Stipe, who I respect the fuck out of, but I can see Stipe start to kind of decline a little bit, man. I can see if Stipe wants an Ngannou rematch, I mean, I don't want to see him. Did you see that the angle of the follow-up he took the other day? You heard the sound of that? Like, speaking of my boy Nate, Stipe is a firefighter too. Like, dude, you're a multiple-time UFC heavyweight champion. There's nothing left for you to accomplish. Like, are you going to win a belt against Stipe? No. Like, and that's not because I'm disrespecting him. That's just facts. Like, if anyone wants to bet me money on that, Stipe will never be champion again. So that's why I'm saying it's just like with these other weight
UFC
classes.
will never let Stipe get a title shot again, much less him be the champion again.
He ain't touching gold again. And I think that Curtis Blades is so fucking boring that I wouldn't be surprised if they don't re-sign him. He goes to Bellator, becomes heavyweight champ over there. So there's going to be room for people to move into the top 5. And I think Aspinall is that guy that's going to move into the top 5. So this time next year, Tom Aspinall and Tom Aspinall and Manel Kape will both be top 5 in their respective divisions. That's my pick.
That adds up to me too, man. I think that Aspinall can definitely make a run at heavyweight. Heavyweight is typically an older division. He's got good hand speed. Unlike Dawkins, he's a little bit more willing to use that grappling. Dawkins kind of has that grappling in his back pocket, doesn't really ever show it. But we've seen that Aspinall was in a little bit of a more greasy fight with Arlovsky. He's like, F this, I'm shooting a blast double leg, and took Arlovsky completely by surprise. So I think that Aspinall's got some layers to his game.
Sorry to cut you off. When you say greasy fight, I mean, he knocked him out, standing TKO, and then he choked him out. Like, what was greasy about it?
Well, what I mean by greasy is just like, I thought that Tom was starting to huff and puff a little bit as I see the start of the second round. So I'm like, oh, is this where we find out he's got that cardio deficiency? No chance to find out. He sprints across, gets him down, and gets him out of there. So I do think that that's something I'm going to keep my eye on with Tom. But dude, I'm with you. He looks like the real deal. But English guys with the wrestling and grappling, keep him away from Curtis Blades if you don't mind.
Yeah, no. See, I think that Curtis Blades ain't going to be in the UFC too much longer. Once his contract's out, I don't see them re-signing him. And it's not because he's not a great fighter. He is a great fighter. It's more so because, I mean, when was the last? Can you, off the top of your head, take less than 5 seconds. What's your all-time favorite Curtis Blades fight?
Derek Lewis.
Oh, you see what I'm saying? I had to think about what happened there. See what you see what I mean? Exactly.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. So, sorry, did you give me your number 6s?
I'm not sure. I could give you my next one here, which is Alexander Rakic secures his title shot by defeating Jan Blachowicz. And I bet against Jan Blachowicz in his last fight. Different animal, Glover Teixeira championship fight. But Glover, again, it was like a case of I expected more resistance. I thought that bet was going to look greasier than it did. Glover goes out there, touches him with the hands, puts him on his ass, and then gets the tap easily,
Again. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And I think that was, again, a concerning sign for me. Jan Blachowicz kind of struck it rich. wasn't supposed to be the champion, wins the title. By the way, I bet on him there as a plus 200 dog against Dominic Reyes. Thank you very much. Cashed that ticket with the brutal body kicks. And I then played Israel Adesanya against him. I thought Adesanya was going to beat him. And I was unpleasantly surprised there. Get the money back by betting my man Glover Teixeira. I think Jan Blachowicz is a good fighter, but I think he had some good opportunities at the right time and some things that worked out his way. Now he's at an older age, and they're trying to get him out the door. They have him fresh off this title run, so he's still shined up very brightly right now. And they've got this new toy, Alexander Rakic, that they want to let loose. And I think the Rocket is coming to a title fight near you in 2022. So that's what I'm expecting in the light heavyweight division. I think Alexander Rakic is going to beat Jan Blachowicz and secure his title opportunity.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't disagree. I mean, listen, Jan Blachowicz was a great champ. It's just, we were talking about Jan 2.0. Well, that last fight, that looked like the Jan 1.0 that was, on that lost 4 out of 5 of his fights. And that was before he went on the big streak. That didn't look like the Jan. And again, it's back to the Amanda Nunes and the long reigning champ. Even though Jan wasn't a long reigning champ, it's like that pressure of being the champ is so fucking much that like these guys sometimes feel relieved to lose that belt. And I mean, there wasn't much resistance from Jan to fight that choke whatsoever. Not saying that Glover doesn't have a serious fucking grip. I mean, how long has the guy been a black belt? So I'm not debating that whatsoever. But yeah, no, I feel you. And yeah, I think it's a race between Rakic, Jiri, and Ankalaev this year. But next year is the Sweet Dreams era, Jamal Hill. Okay, so number 7, I've already kind of said this. Erin Blanchfield becomes the biggest threat to the title in her division. I've been blown away by this girl, man. I mean, I saw someone talk about, but she didn't finish Sarah Alpar. Yeah, well, that's because the ref didn't stop the fight. I mean, that was a pillar-to-post ass whooping. And then to go out there against Miranda Maverick, who a lot of people were calling a future world champion, and to not just beat her, but to dismantle her 30-26, whatever the score was. I think we're looking at someone that's special, someone that's going to make the top 10, someone that's going to go on to have a very, very bright future. And I like this girl. I mean, she's well-rounded. She's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. She can strike. She's tough. She's gritty. She's a mean young lady. And I think Erin Blanchfield, I mean, you remember back in the day when I was on, Yan Xiaonan, Marina Rodriguez, they were my prospects, and I still love them. I'm just saying, back before everybody knew about them, they were the ones that I was pushing. Well, now Blanchfield's my new prospect that I'm pushing. And yeah, we're going to ride that train till the wheels fall off, my man.
Here's what I'll tell you, and I'll keep this one simple and brief. Erin Blanchfield is a young New Yorker representing Renzo Gracie. She's got the Liam Heslin seal of approval, 10 ways to Sunday. God bless her. I think that she's got big things ahead of her in the new year, and I will continue to back her at the betting window.
Hell yeah. Hey, everybody do us a favor. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Retweet my tweet. Let people know that we're live right now. We truly, truly appreciate it. Like, comment, share, all that stuff. Thank you guys very much for being here with us. Now, number 8. Oh, sorry. Give me your number 7.
Absolutely. So I'll take this one. This is a current event. I think Frankie Death Touch is going to take my man Cyril Gane to the land of wind and ghosts. And, there's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of, braggadociousness, I think, almost on the Gane side here coming in. I think you and Shaq were talking about it on Twitter a little bit earlier, but Fernand's talking about releasing the tapes and this guy's getting dropped in sparring and all this stuff. And what I think is this, right? We've got, on the one hand, the most devastating puncher I've ever seen in Francis Ngannou, who throws punches that don't make sense, right? Punches that don't look mechanically proper and send people into another orbit. It's like, we're going to lay favorite money against him. That's something that I don't think I'm going to be comfortable doing here. I think people might be forgetting because they see him in such small doses, because normally he shows up, knocks somebody's head off, and then goes home. But I think that, what he showed against Stipe was impressive. I initially was thinking, Cyril Gane's going to win this fight. He's the better fighter. And then I was like, oh, wait, it doesn't matter. He's fighting Francis Ngannou. How many better fighters is Francis Ngannou going to have to fight and knock their head clean off into the third row before I say, I don't know if, number one, you are the better fighter, but number two, what does being the better fighter mean against the biggest puncher of all time? I don't know. I think that Francis Ngannou might knock him clean out.
I mean, being the better fighter doesn't always mean you're gonna win, and also, you know what happens when these guys start releasing the sparring footage. That means they're overconfident. And from what I've seen, I mean, when Cody Garbrandt tried that shit, didn't you saw how that ended up? There were a couple other examples I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I do think he's being disrespected. Look, is Cyril Gane more, more technical? I hate just saying bland things like, oh, he's a more technical striker, but like, yes, is his technique cleaner than Francis? Yes, it is. No one can debate that. But like, I've never seen Cyril get touched on the chin. You know what I'm saying? And in addition to that, Francis paid his dues, man. Francis took his 2 L's. Francis, like, I'm always worried about undefeated fighters. I mean, unless we're talking about John Jones or Habib, that's a different story. Maybe Cyril Gane's that guy. Let's see. And I've never seen a heavyweight move like Cyril Gane. I mean, the guy's fucking scary. But Francis is something different. And in that last fight, because I know it's always like, oh, all these Francis fights are 30-second knockouts, but like that last fight against Stipe, I mean, yeah, and it ended in a vicious knockout, but like, why hasn't anyone brought up the fact that Francis took down a D1 wrestler in Stipe Miocic? Why aren't people bringing up the fact that this guy's making improvements? He's kicking hard now. He's not just the punches you got to look out for, man. So, yeah, I mean, I could see the fight going either way, but like, I'm not sitting here acting like God. Like, I'm gonna bet Gane with my life and my savings, and like people are like, oh, you want to put your life savings against Francis Ngannou? Like, are you fucking stupid? Like, I'm not saying Gane's not going to win. I'm just saying, like, when we talk about money management, when we talk about, like, I mean, like, show Francis, like, this much respect. Because, I mean, you understand what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Yes, sir.
But I like Gane. I mean, Gane's a
Me
badass.
too.
Like,
I think Gane is tremendous. Bet on him his last few fights. But even when I was so excited to bet on him this time, I'm like expecting to get dog money. And then I see the price. It's all about the price.
yeah, and then people are talking about this outside shit, like Francis with the UFC. Like, who gives a fuck, man? Like how do they match up stylistically is what I want to know, and what happens if Cyril gets touched. So yeah, I'm with you there. All right, so number 8, I think I kind of already touched on this. I think Aljamain Sterling fights once at most in 2022, and the reason I emphasize at most is because I think there's a chance. I really truly believe there's a chance he doesn't show up for this Peter Yan fight. But if he does show up for this Peter Yan fight, I think that's his only fight in 2022.
Man, I could see it. I think that if he loses the fight, oftentimes we kind of see people take that time to recalibrate and try and figure out their championship aspirations. What do they want to do? Aljo's been the guy who talked about retiring young as well. So I wouldn't be altogether stunned if he loses this fight and retires. If he wins the fight and retires, Aljo has talked about getting out of the game early. I think if he was able to get that vindicating win, get everybody off his back, he might say, F this game. I'm out of here. So that's something interesting to keep an eye on, but I could definitely see it playing out that way.
Yeah, let's see what happens. So I know that you're kind of running low on battery real quick. I mean, we've been going for a while. Give me your most boldest one you haven't mentioned yet, just so the fans don't miss that.
All right, awesome. So I think we've touched on it a little bit, but Moreno loses the flyweight strap. There's just too many killers in that division. When you look at Pantoja, he's already gotten the jump on him more than once. When you look at, Davison Figueiredo, I think that Brandon's going to beat Davison, but I think it's going to be a hard fight. I think Davison's going to make some championship adjustments in this rematch and make him earn it. So for me, that's something that's impressive. From these challengers, man. At 125, Manel Cap is a guy who's on the outside looking in terms of title contention right now. But I think that this is like just a contendership queue that's going to be really hard for Brandon Moreno to turn away. And I think that, lightning struck in a bottle for him where he had a really competitive draw with the champion. And then he goes on to have the rematch, gets a definitive win. I think people are riding high on Brandon Moreno, but I just think the quality of competition is too high. And there's still potential for people to exploit him in some of those, the holes that he has in his game. So I think if somebody like Pantoja able to work their way to a championship opportunity, it might be the end of Brandon Moreno's reign at top of 125.
Look, what
Yes, please
sorry,
go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I was just going to say the other crazy one I have is, I think Glover Teixeira is going to club and sub Jiri Prochazka, man. I think that I know he's old, but Glover's got real skills. He was putting hands to Jan Blachowicz before he took him down. People constantly sleep on Glover. He's a power threat. Jiri runs onto punches. He's reckless in his come forward aggression. And Dom Reyes was able to get on top of him, kind of blew that fight when he had Jiri really badly hurt. I think that Glover Teixeira has good finishing instincts. If he gets on top of him, if he hurts this guy, he will get him out of there. So I like Glover Teixeira. Probably not going to end the year as the champion. He is 42. Time is undefeated, but I think this is a winnable fight for him if Jiri Prochazka is the next matchup. So I like Glover to stamp himself as an all-time legend with another club and sub victory as a 42-year-old champion.
Regarding Moreno, I mean, here's what I got to say. Firstly, what he accomplished, I mean, unbelievable. Tip my cap. What a badass. I mean, to get cut from the UFC, come back, win a belt. I mean, dude, like that's what dreams are made of. So, I mean, I got nothing but respect for him. But so the first fight happens, Figgy wins in my eyes. I mean, he won without the point deduction. I mean, that's just facts. And as far as I'm concerned, he won 4-1. So Figgy clearly won the first fight, got destroyed. Figgy got destroyed the second fight. But let me say this. My impression during that fight was, man, I kind of never want to see Figgy at 125 ever again because I felt like the weight cuts were getting to be way too much for him. I mean, the guy's a fucking big ass motherfucker. I mean, and he's missed weight for a title fight before, the first Joseph Benavidez. So for that to happen, and I know he's a professional, it shows that, like, dude, he's a big boy. So that means that you got to make changes because that last fight, and I don't want to discredit Moreno's performance, but that didn't look like the Figgy I know and love. I mean, Figgy touches guys one time and you see their eyes light up if they haven't hit the floor already. And it just didn't look like he wasn't operating on that same frequency. So that means that there's two options when that happens. Either you move up in weight class or you make a considerable change. Because I mean, you know how they talk about, about getting the same results. If, how can you expect new results if you're doing the same shit, whatever the fucking quote is?
The definition of insanity.
Yeah, that whole thing. So, okay, well, guess what this motherfucker did? He leaves Brazil, which is huge. I mean, I don't know how to explain how huge that is because if you go look on his Instagram page during the fight camps for the Moreno fights, this motherfucker was out here eating Brazilian barbecue, which I fucking love myself. I mean, like, it's the best food ever. It's addictive. You fiend that Brazilian steak when you eat it as much as we do. So, I mean, like, dude, like, yeah, I get why it was tough to make weight. This guy leaves Brazil. Not only does he leave Brazil, he's living with Henry Cejudo. He's training at Fight Ready and Neuroforce One. Like, those are the gyms that change lives. Like, do you remember, like, Henry Cejudo was always a badass, but then all of a sudden he's got this explosive karate style. All of a sudden he's dethroning DJ. All of a sudden he's knocking out TJ Dillashaw in 30 seconds. All of a sudden he's defending 2 belts in 2 different weight classes. You remember when Patricio Pitbull was always a badass fighter. All of a sudden he goes to Fight Ready. He develops kind of that karate style. He becomes a 2-division champion in his organization. So Figgy making that move to live with Cejudo, and now he's got John Jones in the room and all the MMA minds over there, plus Neuroforce One, the kind of tests they do on their athletes. They know every number. They know every intricate details of things that are completely beyond my pay grade. I think that's the best possible movie could have made. If this version of Figgy is not good enough to beat Moreno, then Moreno, tip my proverbial cap to you, my man, because, like, that'd be amazing if you beat him. Whereas right now, Moreno's the guy who everybody wants a piece of. I'm not talking about the division. I'm talking about the media. I'm talking about the fans. I'm talking about, I mean, first Mexican champion. Are you fucking kidding me? That's a fucking huge deal, dude. For those that don't know, my mom and my grandma, rest in peace, are Mexican, born in Mexico City. So I know how big of a deal it is. They get behind their athletes like no other. And to have a fighting champion be from Mexico, that's huge. So right now, Moreno's on the press tours. He's doing, the parades,
ZipRecruiter commercials,
the celebrations, the commercials. Like, whereas Figgy is living with Henry Cejudo, and the only goddamn thing on his mind is this fucking fight. And if you look at his pictures, like 2 months ago, he was already in shape. So we're not dealing with this massive weight cut. We're not dealing with Figgy who, the Brazilian barbecue is down the street. I just had a hard training session. Let me just go eat some house special garlic picanha. We're dealing with a guy who's focused, ready, and motivated. And if that's not good enough to beat Brandon Moreno, then props. But I think that he's going to come out here and put up a serious fight. And then there's other guys in the division. We were talking about the Caps. We were talking about the Nicolaus. Let me pull up the rankings one more time. I mean, dude, all these kids coming up now. I think this kid Sumadarji, not yet, but down the line, I think he's a very talented individual. So there's a lot of guys that you have to keep your eye out for. So Liam's computer died. Props to him for showing up, man. What a cool kid. I really like him. So if any of y'all want to hop in here with me, more than welcome to. If not, I'm just going to go ahead and finish this off in terms of I still have a few more predictions I want to give here. So I already said Aljo only fights once at most 2022. We don't got to talk about that. Here's another one. I think Francis Ngannou actually works things out with the UFC and stays, man. I mean, I've seen so many times when people are beefing with the UFC, and oftentimes it's not even about Francis versus Dana. Sometimes it's about the management. You know, the certain managers get in the way, and they kind of put kind of like a, not a tarnish, but kind of they put a black cloud like in between, like they're a middleman and a third party that can fuck things up from time to time. Other times they can negotiate great deals and this and that, but sometimes they say some of the most insane shit. I mean, do you guys remember when Holly Holm turned down the Ronda Rousey rematch? She couldn't wait for the Ronda Rousey rematch, and instead she fights Miesha Tate and gets choked out, like, you know, because her manager told her to do that. So some of these managers, man, they lead their fighters the wrong way in terms of the moves they should make. But at the same token, I personally feel like Francis Ngannou should be regarded and promoted as if, I mean, this is the Mike Tyson of the UFC. I've never, when he touches people's chins, I mean, dudes get decapitated. I mean, like, if I was in the crowd for the Francis Ngannou versus Overeem fight, I mean, it's, you know, when you go to the baseball game and you bring your glove with you because you want to catch that home run or that foul ball, shit, I would have fucking brought my glove with me so I could catch Alistair Overeem's head when Ngannou decapitated him. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I got to say about that. Y'all feel free to ask me some questions here in the chat. I'm very happy to answer those as well. But yeah, I do think that Francis actually works things out with the UFC and stays. I mean, you can't let this guy go to Bellator. You can't let this guy go to PFL. You can't let him do that bare knuckle boxing shit. I mean, not till he's ready to retire. Francis has some more things to do in the UFC, and God, I just wish he won that first Stipe fight, because if he did, I really think things between him and Dana would be on point. But the way, because like he would have been such a massive superstar had he won that first Stipe fight. And even though he's still a superstar now, even though he's still the undisputed heavyweight champion, the Stipe fight and the Derek Lewis fight kind of took a little bit away from him. And even though, hey, he's regained a lot of momentum, he's the champ, I'm just saying, had those fights never happened and he became champ, like if he treated Stipe the first time how he treated him the second time, we might be looking at a massive global superstar. So I'm curious if the UFC do have any kind of resentment towards him not winning that first fight. That's just speculation. Who knows? All right, number 10. I think John Jones, knock on wood, doesn't get into any legal trouble in 2022. I mean, you know, it's funny, when I tweeted that out, it was on December 31st. So my thoughts were like, well, fuck, what if he's getting drunk tonight on New Year's and get to DUI? Well, that didn't happen. We got past New Year's. So, and to take it a step further, John Jones is where we were talking about with Figgy and Henry Cejudo down at Fight Ready. So yeah, I think John Jones right now, he's around the right people. He's out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. If y'all have ever been there, you can understand why he gets in trouble down there. I think he's around the right people, and I think that he's not going to get into any legal trouble in 2022. My boy Nasty Nate said, do you see Aldo ever touching the title again? I'll say this. I see him fighting for a title again. It's just to beat Piotr Yan. I'll say this. I think that Aldo beats Aljamain Sterling. Confidently, I say that, and I think he beats most of these guys. But I just don't see him beating the great Piotr Yan. All right, so number 11, I think that Marlon Chito Vera finally fights in a 5-round main event and wins. I mean, one thing about Chito Vera that a lot of people have been talking about is how he's a slow starter. He often gives up the first round, and it's a similar quality to Piotr Yan. And it's not necessarily slow starter kind of feels like when you talk about Cowboy Cerrone and he gets his ass whooped in that first round. Whereas like I don't think Cheeto and Piotr Yan get their asses whooped in the first round. I think they're making reads out there. They're trying to see what you're working with. They kind of view it as like almost like a fight to the death mentality. Whereas like, yeah, throw everything you got at me, in this first round, but I'm gonna still be there in that second, third, fourth, fifth rounds. And sometimes in some of these fights with Cheeto, the fact that they were 3-round fights costed him. Like that Lineker fight, he clearly lost the first 2 rounds. That third round, not only did he win that third round against Lineker, I mean, Lineker wanted no part of him. That's a 5-round fight. I think Cheeto Vera finishes Lineker in the 4th and 5th round. So when you're starting to see these guys like Cheeto Vera finally get into 5-round fights, even a guy like Bilal Muhammad, he systematically breaks down his opponents. You give me a 4th and a 5th round with Bilal, and I think you're going to start to see finishes from him. It's like I was talking about with Usman. Usman used to be heavily criticized for always going to decision. Now he's a world champion. Now, he's knocked out like 2 of his last 3 opponents. You understand? He knocked out Colby Covington the first time, knocked out Gilbert Burns, knocked out Jorge Masvidal. So, like, things change as fighters evolve and as they start to get to those 5-round fights. And I think that Cheeto Vera and Bilal Muhammad are 2 guys that are going to absolutely strive in 5-round fights. All right, so here's what we're about to do. Here's my last bold prediction that I'm about to mention. And after that, I want to answer y'all's questions. So y'all do me a favor and start submitting those questions right now. Hold on one second. My boy Liam just messaged me. Okay, so y'all start submitting your questions right now, and then once I'm done reading this number 12, I will answer those questions y'all got. And then one thing I wanted to say as well is so my boy Liam stepped up on like short notice. This was originally going to be me and Clint from the Die Hard MMA podcast, and Clint had a family situation arise, and listen, family first always. So Clint, my heart's out to you. I mean, I don't think it's too serious what's happening, so I don't think y'all need to go crazy or anything, but still, family first, and we'll reschedule for sure, and I look forward to it. And because I do have a no flake policy, but I just don't consider that a flake. I mean, I know Clint, that he's a genuine ass dude, and family first always. So whereas like if it was if like one time I was about to do some dude's show, and it's like the show was supposed to be at 4:00, right? I show up at 3:59 and I get a text, and this motherfucker tells me something came up. I'm like, you couldn't have fucking told me that earlier, like on your own show. I'm doing you a favor. Anyways, now that's a separate story for a different time. But shout out to Clint, shout out to Liam. I appreciate y'all. Keep piling in those questions. And now let me give you number 12. So number 12, Tony Ferguson, Rafael Dos Anjos, Dan Hooker, Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler, and Carlos Diego Ferreira will all be ushered out of the UFC lightweight rankings by the next generation of lightweights like Rafael Fiziev, Arman Sarukian, Mateusz Gamrot, Joel Alvarez, and Damir Ismagulov. Like, do you guys remember how a couple of years back, there were guys like Ali Akinta holding up a top 15 spot for like literally no reason. He didn't beat a single fucking person in the top 15 and fought like once every like million years, like, and that dude was in the top 15. So a lot of these guys that shouldn't be in the top 15 are still in the top 15 right now, but that's about to slowly change. So when I'm looking at these rankings, Bronx is the champ. I think Islam Makhachev is about to move up to a number 1 contender, depending if he can get past the very tough Beneil Dariush. If Gregor Gillespie can find some consistency, I think he's there. Rafael Fiziev, one of the scariest strikers in the division. And even his last opponent, Brad Riddell, I think that guy's got a bright fucking future too. So just like we had to get rid of, Ali Akinta and, Anthony Pettis back in the day and Cerrone, not while they were in their primes, but like once, they were like 3 years removed from their primes and they were still in the top 15. That's how I feel about Tony Ferguson. That's how I feel about Rafael Dos Anjos. I admire them tremendously. It's just I just don't currently view them as top 15 guys anymore. Michael Chandler, like, he's had a long ass career prior to coming to the UFC. I know he he's a rookie in the UFC in 2021, but the dude ain't no rookie at fighting. This dude was out here beating Eddie Alvarez and Benson Henderson outside the UFC. So, but now I'm starting to think that, I mean, like keep it 100 with me. Who y'all got between Gamrot and Chandler? Who y'all got between Sarukian and Chandler? Who y'all got between fucking Brad Riddell and Tony Ferguson? Like, I'm just trying to say, Conor McGregor, I mean, biggest star in the sport, changed the sport forever, but like, y'all see him coming out here and beating anybody in the top 15? How fucking funny and not funny at the same time would it be if if he knocked out Charles and became the champion? You know what's funny about that? Okay, so let's say Charles and Conor get into a fight in the octagon for the belt. So you could probably take a futures bet right now on Conor McGregor becoming the world champion at like, I don't know what the odds are, plus 800, plus 1,000, plus 1,800. Just bet on that. And if he gets the title shot, just hedge it with Oliveira, guarantee yourself some money. Because imagine, like, right now, like if you bet Conor right now, but you just have to have certainty that he's going to fight for the belt. But if you do that, and then you just bet the Oliveira money line, guarantee yourself some money. So, yeah, that is my final bold prediction. Once again, just to repeat myself, the Tony Fergusons, the RDAs, the Dan Hookers, the Conor McGregors, the Michael Chandlers, the Carlos Diego Ferreiras will all be ushered out of the UFC lightweight rankings by the next generation of fighters like Fiziev, Sarukian, Gamrot, Alvarez, Ismagulov, etc., etc., etc. So that's what I got to say. I truly, truly appreciate y'all being here with me. Smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, like, comment, retweet, share, do all that for me. Now let's get down to this fan Q&A. And I appreciate y'all being here with me for almost 2 hours. And I appreciate Liam stepping up on short notice. And shout out to my boy Clint. Hope all is well with you. All right. So I'm scrolling up to the top of the chat, and let's see what kind of questions y'all got. And this is the first podcast of 2022. So it's fucking awesome to be here back with y'all. I plan to be doing a lot more, releasing a lot more shows that aren't just, me and Shaq breaking down every card, which I love doing, and we're going to continue to do that. Make no mistake about it. All I'm saying is there's going to be additional shows like the one we're doing right now and some other fun things that we can think of. And I honestly want to interview people from all walks of life on this show too. So we got a lot of plans for Half the Battle. This is going to be a big year. So, all right. Let's get down to these questions. Let's see what y'all have. Matt says Valentina double champ. I mean, I understand why you're asking that, but I will predict no. Big J says Marina Rodriguez 115 champ end of the year. I'd be more confident if she wasn't fighting Yan Xiaonan. I think that's going to be a serious fight. Like Yan Xiaonan versus Marina Rodriguez. I mean, whoever wins that could be fighting for a title. That is such a serious showdown between two of my absolute favorite prospects at 115 pounds. And they're both serious strikers. And who's better? Let's find out. So I'm very excited about that. All right, let's see what y'all have. What else y'all got for me? Sorry, I'm having a hard time pronouncing your name, but he says he'd like to see McKinney versus Patty. Okay. Yeah, I'm down to see that. But he's asking, is Patty fighting Jared Gordon next? Nothing's signed. They're just, bantering a little bit and testing the water, seeing what's happening. Chance says Blanchfield not finishing Sarah Alpar was criminal. In terms of like the ref not stepping in after that ass whooping, or in terms of like, why didn't she get her out of there? I mean, listen, some people are tough to finish. But there's no debate that there was like a fucking 30-25 pillar to post ass whooping. So I mean, you can't take anything away from Blanchfield for that. UFC debut, ran through her opponent easily. Like, yeah, her opponent can take a whooping. Some people can take an ass whooping. It is what it is. This is the fight game, man. He also said, not Chance, but this the other dude with the name I couldn't pronounce. I probably can pronounce it once I hear it, but he said Cheeto gonna decline this year. Really? See, I vehemently disagree with that. I think he's actually about to reach his prime and be a threat here down the line, especially now that Cheeto Vera is approaching the point in his career where he's going to have those 5-round fights, which has been eluding him. And that's what I've wanted him to have for so goddamn long because of the whole quote unquote slow starting / making reads early on in fights and then turning up late. So I respectfully disagree with that. All right, let's see what else y'all got here. Okay, hold on. Jimmy, what's up, my boy Jimmy? He says, "Do Bronx still the champ this time next year?" He says yes. That's tough. That's tough because you got the Islam Makhachevs, you got the Beneil Dariushs. I think there's a chance for sure, but that's one that I'm not quite ready to like. I am ready to say Peter Yan's the champ this time next year. Do Bronx, amazing fighter, but this Islam Makhachev fight, I just kind of got to see how it goes down. I really do. All right, let's see. El Fasanumba 1 said, shit, thoughts on our guy Fernie Garcia from El Paso, Dallas train. Okay, guy Fernie Garcia from Fortis MMA. I have no idea who that is, man, but I'm gonna look him up right now. Fernie Garcia. And let's see. I mean, what are we dealing with here? Hold on. Oh shit. Hold on 1 second. I got two computers in front of me and I was typing on the wrong one and looking at the wrong fucking monitor. Okay. All right. Fernie Garcia. Kid is 10-1. Okay. He's in the Bantamweight division. He's got pretty good size for the division. Oh shit. This guy. Yeah, he had a first round knockout on Contenders series. So, and his only loss is a split decision. So I didn't watch it. So who knows? Maybe it was controversial. Maybe for all you know, this guy should be undefeated. But yeah, I appreciate you bringing him up, and we will definitely keep our eyes out and see if this kid's the real deal or not. So, thanks for bringing him up, man. I appreciate that. All right, let's see. What else y'all got for me? My boy Liam said Jones not getting in trouble is the boldest prediction of 2022. Yeah, you had some good ones too, man. My boy Nate said, "Who wins the trifecta, Holloway or Volk?" It's tough because it's like it's one of those fights where it's like Volk's already beating him twice, and it's like here's where you start that conversation about what happens if these guys fight 10 times. How many times does Volk win? How many times does Max win? So the more they fight, the more the chances of Max winning one of those increases. But I got to go with Volk, man. The feinting game is too much. If there's any other fighters or aspiring fighters or just people that fancy studying the game, really look into Volk's feint game. I mean, his feint game shuts people down in a way. I'm like when he went to Rio and fought Jose Aldo and 30-27 him, and Jose wasn't even couldn't even get a read or a beat on Volk whatsoever. And that's uncharacteristic of Jose Aldo, the king of Rio in Rio. Like Volk is something special, but so is Max. So yeah, I just one thing I will say though, Max ain't about to come out here and fucking land 700 strikes on Volk like he did on Cater. That much I can assure you. So it's gonna be a closely contested fight for the most part. And I'm wondering if is Max ever gonna get knocked out anytime soon? I mean, he takes so many fucking shots. At what point is his chin gonna go? But at the same time, Hawaiians are known for having these you can hit these guys with baseball bats and they ain't gonna get knocked out. Do you remember all those beatings BJ Penn took and was still there? It's just something different. I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. I don't know this the bone structure, the DNA. I don't have an explanation. All I know is Hawaiians have a reputation for having insane durability. So, but I'm wondering, when's he finally going to get knocked out? I mean, you've seen the amount of significant strikes. If you go to UFC stats right now and you count up all the significant strikes that Max Holloway has eaten throughout his career, for any other fighter, it'd be like, oh shit, that first KO loss is coming soon. Max is a little different, but at the same time, he's still human. So will it happen? Will it not happen? I don't know. But my lean is Volk for sure. And I cashed on Volk both times. So I guess I definitely gotta pick him there. All right, let's see what else. Andy says, is Gregor Gillespie versus Tony Ferguson the fight to make? I mean, it's the fight to make if you want to guarantee Gregor Gillespie a win, because I mean, he's going to easily beat him. It's just, can we do like a Tony Ferguson versus Mike Chandler? Can we do, a Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz, a Tony Ferguson versus Dustin Poirier? Yeah, I know Dustin would crush him, but I'm just saying, like, guys that are more established, guys that have paid their dues more and had longer tenures in the UFC. Because, I mean, look, you can honestly just go ahead and put Tony Ferguson in there with Rafael Fiziev, Arman Sarukian, Gamrot, Joel Alvarez, and just usher him out the top 15. Super easy if you want. But if you want to get something out of him, I'd say put him in there with guys who have similar tenures as him and are just as well respected and known as him. And let him have some fun Legends fights, man. Nate says, Islam gets past Beneil, who beats him once he wins the belt. So Nate is predicting that not only Nate is predicting that not only Islam beats Beneil, but then he goes and beats Charles too. So the question is, who beats Islam if he hypothetically becomes the world champion? It's a good question. I didn't really want to bring up Gregor Gillespie, but the reason, because I don't think Gregor Gillespie is a future champ, the only reason I'm bringing up is because, just stylistically speaking, I mean, I would say he's got the wrestling credentials to make it interesting. So that's actually like that. And then Gamrot, that could be interesting too. So yeah, there's a lot of, there's so many options, dude. We just got to see what happens. Tony versus Connor. Probably Connor, unless, look, Connor's going to whoop his ass early going, no questions asked, but get some knockdowns, fuck him up. But if Tony can extend it, I'll say this, if Tony wraps his arms around Connor's neck, Connor ain't going to get out of that. But Tony might actually be washed up to a point where you're going to finally see him start to, get finished in these fights, and you're going to finally start to see him go down. And these things don't get better. These things get worse, especially when you take the kind of damage he does. And last but not least, Ace of Spade with the big question: who wins, Ilia Topuria, or Movsar Evloev? What a great question. I mean, normally I'd give you my whole, you got to wait till my breakdown to hear that. But let me just talk about that fight a little bit. So I bet on Topuria's first 2 UFC fights, dog odds against Zalal, who was a hyped ass prospect at the time. And then it was only minus 200 for like a 1 minute knockout against Damon Jackson. I took him there too. But when you see a guy like Evloev at dog odds against almost anybody in the division, I mean, I think it might be worth a stab. And it wouldn't be a fade on Topuria, more of just a bet on Evloev at dog odds. I think Evloev is something special. Reason being, obviously, he's a takedown machine. His hands ain't half bad, but like, what about the kind of heart this guy has? You remember that deep ass choke Grundy had him in that first round? I mean, the way that Evloev created the tiniest bit of space, pushed off those hips and got out of it, and then went back to dominate the fight. Like, those are the kind of things you like to see when you're trying to scout a future world champion. Everybody's good when they're the hammer, but how do you do as the nail? Evloev can be the nail, and that's my question here with Topuria, because that third round against Zalal, he was gassing out really fucking badly. And granted, gassing out from whooping Zalal's ass, so you can't take anything away from him. That's for sure. It's just more so that he doesn't have the same amount of cage time as a guy like Evloev, because all these guys are getting out there in the first round, and that's not his fault. Hey, props to you for finishing these guys in the first round. I just don't see you finishing a guy like Evloev in the first round. And if you do, if he does, then holy fucking shit, right? Okay. Greg says, is Bryce Mitchell the best rapper in the UFC? He's fucking 10 times better than Woodley, I'll tell you that much. Paso number 1. Now I'm saying your name right. It just took me a couple tries. Best fight camp at the moment. All I know is it's different for everybody, right? Like, if I had to send down some of my guys to certain places, I'd send them to all different places. Like, I would send Robert Hale and Nathan Williams to shit. I had a specific gym. What was the gym I wanted to send y'all to? I think I would send them to like Fortis MMA. I think the culture there, they'd get along with the people there, and the head coach could give them the push that they really need. And then I'd send Jared Gooden to Fight Ready, just so he can kind of. But Jared Gooden could also benefit from having a coach like Saif Saud. So honestly, I'd send Jared Gooden, Robert Hale, and Nathan Williams to Fortis MMA. But Fight Ready, Neuro Force One's also another great option. It's just that some of these guys, they don't do as well, like with these big fucking camps or like ATT, where there's like 30 pro fighters, so there's not that much specialized attention. Whereas I hear with Fortis, it's a small knit group and or tight knit group, excuse me, and their head coach Saif Saud is on top of these guys, not on top of them in terms of like grappling, but on like staying on top of them, like calling them in the morning, asking them if they ate this specific part of their diet, asking them if they skip their workout, whatever. Just he stays on top of them like a general, and it's very structured over there. So Fortis MMA and the training partners that these guys would have there, that I think that's the place I'd recommend for them. But there's always Neuro Force One and Fight Ready. I mean, you just cannot fucking sleep on them. So Fortis or Fight Ready are the two I'd send my guys to. But it's different for everybody. Like Cody Durden, I would not send to Fight Ready or Neuro or Fortis. I think he does better at ATT. But Hale, Williams, Gooden, Fortis MMA, I think is the right move. Okay, let's see. Essie says Evloev is the one with cardio issues in the third. I mean, I guess. I mean, he whooped that last dude's ass so fucking bad that there was only no, like, it's like when you're going on the highway 100 miles per hour, like you think that your gas tank is just going to suddenly increase. Of course it's going to decrease. I mean, but the dude pushed through it. Whereas, and there was a little bit of a difference in the gassing between him and Taporia. And Taporia has only been in that third round one time. So I need to see a little bit more. I just expect that to be an amazing fight. All right. Chris says, who should Jared Gooden fight next? Listen, Jared's a very talented guy. It's just the issue with Jared is that, like, dude, you're only a couple fights into your UFC and you're in a co-main event with Randy Brown already. Like, I get it. Dream big, aspire big, and maybe one day after you've had, after you've paid your dues in the UFC and had 10 fights under your belt, then you go have a co-main event with Randy Brown. But for like your third, fourth fight, like, come on, dude. So I want to see Jared, go fight like Warley Alves, go fight Munir Lazez, Sasha Palatnikov, Brian Barberena. Like fuck giving him these Russians and Randy Brown, who he's not ranked in the top 15, but between you and me, he is a top 15 guy. Like, just like give him a fair fight. You know what I'm saying? Give him Court McGee. You see what I'm saying? Like, if Michelle Prezeris was still on a roster, I'd like that too. So, because I think Jared can win some fights. It's just he's been taking the wrong fights. That's the only issue. But he's got the skills. And he's got the will. He's got the heart of a fighter. You saw that front kick Randy Brown hit him with? Did you see Jared try to quit at all when that happened? Like, that's the sign of a real fighter. So Jared's got the heart. He's just got to make the right decisions and take the right fights. Greg says, who wins, Kutalaba or Span? I'd say Span is more skilled, but Kutalaba is more of a madman. And I don't like what I've been seeing from Span lately. So give me Kutalaba to come out there and bully him a little bit. All right. Hold on. Last thing. This guy said, I called Hamzat Big Khabib the first time I saw him. Do you see him being as dominant as a champ as Khabib was? Possibly, but it's too early to say that. I mean, first he's got to beat a top 5 guy, and dependent on how he treats that top 5 guy, he's got to win that fight. Depending on how he treats him, I'll have more of a gauge of what his ceiling truly is. I mean, I think he's going to fight for a belt for sure. It's just based on these performances, right? We just got to see how dominant are the performances as the level of competition starts to increase. If he can blow these guys out the water like he's been doing to the guys he's fighting now, to the top 5 guys, hey, then he might fucking be a future world champion for a long, long ass time. And the last question, Uh, will Michelle Pereira make it to the rankings? Yeah, at some point. I don't see why not. I mean, the dude's skilled. I actually think, um, I personally think Muslim Salikov is going to beat him, but so what? Again, and now it's back to like what we were talking about with these other weight classes. Like some of these guys are going to be ushered out, and they're going to make the room for these, newer guys to come into the rankings. Like I don't see Wonderboy Thompson lasting in the rankings that much longer. I don't see Neil Magny lasting in the rankings that much longer. Like so I don't see Michael Chiesa lasting in the rankings that much longer. So absolutely, I see a guy like Michelle Pereira win, lose, or draw against Muslim Salikov, eventually find his way to the top 15. So yeah, I would say so. All right, y'all. Well, I think that's it for me. So I truly appreciate you guys being here with me. Like this video, share this video, comment, subscribe, hook me up with those retweets. I really appreciate it. Let people know that Half the Battle is back. And if you genuinely enjoyed the show, make a tweet and let people know how much you enjoyed it, man. Like we got to get the word out there, because when COVID happened for me, I took 2 months off and I think people forgot about the show. So y'all got to let them know that we're back here. And if you enjoy it, reviews go a long way. So I truly appreciate you guys. Follow me at BestFightPicks. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, all the places where we are available. I'll be back next week with Shaq to break down the Giga Chikadze versus Cater card next week. And then also my sponsor, Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com or download the Prize Picks app. Use the code BATTLE for an 100% deposit match up to $100 to join the easiest and simplest way to play daily fantasy sports. I mean, guys, like, you can make money on sports you have no fucking clue about. That's how fucking badass Prize Picks is, and we've been cashing out. Trust me on that. I mean, I turned 100 into 1,000 pretty fucking fast on there. So I recommend you all go out there and give them a try. Thank you very much to Liam for stepping up on short notice. I truly appreciate that, my man. It was a pleasure speaking with you. And then also shout out to Clint, man. Hope everything works out with you. So again, the fans, the supporters, thank you guys so very, very much. Truly look forward to speaking with y'all again very soon. And until the next time, y'all know what time it is. Let's cash these bets.